Welcome in. We're here to talk post Game Week 22 and ahead of Game Week 23. We are the Three Wanks FPL podcast, joined here by Sharp, aka FPL Vibes FC, and Mac, FPL Mac. Gentlemen, how are we doing?
I mean, fourth week in the fucking cone out of the last five. So we're not doing great. None of them, I will admit, have been like massive declines, but I've basically just steadily gone down for the past like 7 weeks. And so it sucks.
Yeah. It feels bad, especially when you're making a lot of moves to you're like, oh, okay, this week it's going to work. Okay. And they just keep being the wrong move. So I feel that.
I know you said that to be like empathetic, but you really just big
you
smack across the face with that one.
I mean, I'm doing the same shit, so it is what it is.
It's also tough because the points are so much more marginal at that high. Like, I'm having a great week because I beat my safety score by 7 points and shot up 200k ranks, and I'm like, hell yeah, let's go. Unlike both of you, where you're just kind of stuck in the same spot, I'm like oscillating between jumping off a building and throwing a party every week. So this is a party week.
Yeah, it shows in the mini. Things have gotten a little bit tighter up between the two of you. I would love to be a part of that party, but I'm still down in the basement. Mac only 27 points off you, Sharp. That's maybe 2 good game weeks, I would think. To outscore somebody by 27, you'd have to do pretty solid. But yeah, things are getting tight.
Luckily, I at least know his moves before he does them. So if I need to just have the same team, I'll do whatever I need to do.
Ultimate defensive. But what if he rolls a transfer? That would be the ultimate.
We're fucked.
Along those lines, showing the rank. It's honestly like I'm gonna rant for myself for a second. It is pretty incredible that every week I just know it's gonna come back to 1.2. I was down at like 1 million at one point, and there were still 2 games left, and I was like, this will go to exactly 1.2. Sure enough, it just makes me laugh. But yeah, I'm flatlining. Mac, you're making up some. Yeah, the ground is getting close up there. It's getting close.
Yeah, we'll try to create some more distance this week.
From Luke, yes, we'll both go down.
Exactly. Yeah.
Rise together.
Sure. Yep.
I wouldn't be surprised, man. It is what it is. All right. So by definition, Sharp, talk us through your Game Week 22, how things went, where our headspace is going into this next week.
I mean, unfortunate blanks across the board. Bet against Holland again, and Ekatike blanked again. And I said last week that he was going to. Like, it is what it is. My best striker is Barry, and I don't play him. So that's where I'm at right now with the front three. I was only a Fulham clean sheet away, though, from actually going up in rank. Wilson technically kept it. He just had a yellow because he got subbed off, and then they give up the Leeds goal with like at the 92nd minute. And so that was a true dagger. I mean, 41 isn't anything to write home about, but it would have stagnated me, which would have been nice. Tark and Gabriel are like almost play every week guys just because of DEFCONs and everything. So at least I can feel solid right there for now. But the lack of returns across the board is brutal. And I think one thing we might want to touch on at some point is Saka and his what those minutes look like for someone that expensive. Because when he was returning 4 to 8 every single week, I'm like, yeah, I'll pay that because no one else is being that consistent. And now I'm like, okay, you're not going to start. Madueke is going to come in. You're going to play 50 and he's going to come in. Like, I'm not feeling good about it, even though you'd think Saka is Saka.
Yeah.
I mean, I think if you this is going to sound like such a Spurs thing to say, like Spurs supporter, but like Saka's best goal scoring season is like 5 goals in the league. Like, I feel like he's an assist guy, or should be rather, and they just still have not figured out their striker position. So who's he giving it to?
Boy, that is so true.
Fair.
I keep thinking of the tweet that I saw forever ago where it was like, Benjamin Sesko is the worst striker I've seen in 30 minutes when I was watching Victor Gyökeres. And I was like, that's so true. Those guys are ass. Sharp, I will like, I know this is you're gonna like want to hit me in the face again, but I will say I genuinely feel for you that twice in the last few weeks you've had the stones to go anti-Holland and have gotten no payback for that. Like, because I haven't had the stones and we've gotten the same outcome from that, and that I genuinely feel for you on that one.
Well,
and
I also feel for you that you've left 70 points on the bench in the last 3 weeks.
That part I don't feel for you. You can suck it on that shit.
Again, I'm not gonna count because I have been counting like my reasonable ones, and those have been really high. I can't count Barry and Dallo against City as people that I really ever even considered or wanted to play. So I'm not as mad this week, but when Saka wasn't on, I was cheering for him to not come on. I can tell you that much because then Barry would have.
Yeah.
What was the rationale behind Guehi first on the bench?
Yeah.
Luke, you asked. Sorry to interrupt, Luke, but you asked that earlier, and I was like, "Yeah, what are you doing?"
What was that thought process?
I mean, there's not a thought process. I was in no concern of him playing, so it doesn't matter where I put him.
How would that work? It would bypass him, right? Auto sub wise, like it would.
Yeah,
Okay.
It would just sub the sub.
Unless one of the defenders didn't play, then it would go to Dallo.
Yeah, which would have been pretty chill.
Mhm.
Well, along those lines, it was pretty brutal. I talked a lot of shit to you about leaving points on your bench, and then holy fuck, my bench would have been just phenomenal this week. And it's
I like how you did it in reverse order, though. You made sure those
I made sure,
down there.
no chance am I playing that guy. It was pretty infuriating that first game. Like, not even it actually didn't upset me that much. It just made me laugh. Where I was like, wow, that would happen. So I have Cunha and Dorgu for the last few weeks because Dorgu's playing essentially left wing, and Cunha is the main guy at United. They're looking good. Take a little bit of a chance on that over the last few weeks, and of course they don't return. But the week they're playing City, it would be a Cunha to Dorgu assist to goal. Not only that, but I was obviously on the fence last week about whether or not to sell Cunha. And so I wake up, I see the team sheets, see that he's not in, and I was like, oh, hell yeah, I made the right choice. And then he comes on, cameos, and gets the assist. And it's like, cool, I'll just go fuck myself. So that one hurt. The Garner being on my bench, it is what it is. I knew I was like, he had a 4-point floor, so that's just how it goes. He is like genuinely what you're looking for in terms of a DEFCON mid, I think. I mean, he's an absolute animal from that perspective. I don't know if the attacking returns are going to justify anything more than that, but having a 4-point baseline player every week is pretty solid. So
I actually saw a Rob T tweet on Twitter that they back calculated all of the DEFCONs going back from like 20 seasons or some shit like that. And I think this was the single highest amount of DEFCONs by any midfielder in a single week.
Yeah, I guess they just had him on Morgan Rogers watch all game and just and he did really well. The one that Sharp is going to say I told you so, and rightfully so, is that I didn't play Rodon over O'Reilly. And I was really on the fence about that, and I was thinking about playing Rodon. And the reason I didn't end up doing it is because I brought in Wilson, and so I didn't want to play my attacker against my defender, which is turned poor for me. People forget Fulham are pretty poo-poo going forward. So you get what you give on that one. O'Reilly is genuinely concerned, though, as somebody who has not played a full 90 in the last like 4 games or something. So he comes in and then is on the receiving end of that Cunha Dorgu goal. So it was a triple hit to the nutsack on that one. And then otherwise, yeah, my entire attack blanked. So that's always fun. But I will say this is reminiscent to me of the start of the season, like the first 6 or so game weeks where like Mac, you're on a fat green arrow and you had like what 45 points or something like that.
I'm not sure I had a single attacking return. Yeah,
right. Like this was again kind of one of those like week of the clean sheets types of weeks that are so weird, and like all the big players blank. So yeah, just feels like another a retch, like I had PTSD from that. But yeah, all right, Mac, moving along.
Yep. So rounding out the game week, woke up Saturday morning, saw that Guehi had made the transfer and was not going to play. So he was originally who I had slotted in for Van de Ven. So I made the snap decision. I was like, Spurs have been bad, but they're playing West Ham. Surely this will be good. Did one transfer for Van de Ven. Turns out the move was to just do nothing and play 10-point Tarkowski because, you know, him and Pickford would have gotten 18 points between the two of them, and that would have put me up in like 55 points. And I imagine that would have been quite a significant rank gain.
Yeah.
But, oh well. You know, like everyone else has said, not a single attacking return in sight. I think only 3 players returned, and it was like Enzo, Bruno, and Bumo for attackers that are like relatively highly owned. Everybody else blanked. So just kind of one of those weird weeks And then I just happen to have a pretty solid backline. I feel validated a little bit with going for Pickford. I was kind of nervous about that. But I mean, I was watching that Everton game and he had a monster save.
Yeah.
And, that's just kind of been Pickford's thing for a couple of years, is just that he gets a lot of saves even when Everton's not cleaning. And so the fact that they did clean was great. And that's freed me up for 2 Arsenal defenders, which has worked pretty well for this week. Then obviously Chow, just 0 or nothing. This week it was 0 or nothing, 0 or 100. This week it was 100. Last week with his -1, it was 0. The prior week was 17. So just bench him next week and play him the week after. The secret's out.
Right.
Yeah, so overall pretty good game week. I'm a little bit bummed that I brought in Van de Ven. I thought that was just a really smart differential play, but it proved not to be. Spurs look so bad. So good week overall. I'm pretty happy with it. What I will say is I feel like the ranks are really fragile though, because I shot up 200k ranks on a 7-point safety score. So
that's what I'm saying. I think the scores in general were just so low that if you got anything, you had a pretty significant rise.
Mm-hmm.
On the Pickford points, I wanted to touch on that game really quickly, just because I think this validates what you're saying. And it I feel like all the conversations we've had around Newcastle, I feel like this is the opposite thing that Everton keep doing, right? Where they're essentially cleaning when in theory they shouldn't be, and Newcastle are doing the opposite. And I do think in those cases, it's probably easy enough to say that comes down to goaltending. You have Pickford making big saves and keeping his team in games that maybe they should lose, whereas Newcastle, it's the other way around. So, I think from that perspective, that's what you're looking for in a goalie, is somebody who's getting a lot of shots and is going to get bonus points and save points and stuff like that. So, props to you on that one.
It's worth noting. So on goals prevented, Pickford is currently leading with 6.2 goals prevented.
Yeah.
Whereas Nick Pope is in 13th at 0.1, meaning he is basically on exactly where he should be. So I think there is some credence to say, all things equal, Pickford's just stopping a couple more shots. Morgan Rogers almost scored another absolute banger this week, and Pickford just got it, and it was incredible. And I was sort of on the fence of okay, I didn't play Tarkowski, so it'd be nice to wipe that clean sheet and get the Rogers return. But I think if it was Henderson or Pope in that, not Henderson, excuse me, but it was Pope in that spot, I think it would have been a goal. So
along those lines, you specifically, Mac, have owned him for a little while longer, but you both have Morgan Rogers. That's not somebody I have. Thoughts? Is he somebody that you guys are this seems like a game where you were maybe hoping for a level of return from him? His long-term fixtures are really good. Arguably the worst one is this week against Newcastle, which I don't think is the worst thing in the world. But where are you guys at on temperature on him?
Cooling. Still medium. Oh, okay.
I mean, I think medium's a good way of putting it too.
Yeah, I think when you look at his fixtures, that's really what it is. And we just talked about how no one returned this week, so I'm not gonna hold that against him this week. And bad game, but they were the third ranked team in the Prem. I still have to have faith that their offense is going to be able to put enough home, and he's going to be the one at the center of it. That I think he's going to return more often than he's not across the next 8, 9, 10 game weeks.
Yeah, I think he's dramatically overperforming. And if you look at his last 5 games, he's gone 1-1, 5-3-2. But so those scores don't sound great. But then when you run them up against the teams that he played, it was Chelsea, Arsenal, Forest, Palace, Everton. So Everton, Palace, Arsenal, Chelsea are 4 teams which I would consider relatively solid defensively, and it kind of makes sense that he didn't have monster returns in those weeks. The run for the next 3 isn't great with Newcastle, Brentford, Bournemouth, but then after that, from 26 basically through 36, he has kind of a monster run. So I don't think he's a priority buy by any means, because Villa have just been massively overperforming their numbers. And I've been saying this for a couple of weeks, but the way that they're scoring is Morgan Rogers goes out and pulls a crazy worldie out of the hat. It's just some goal that has no real right to go in and just does.
Sure.
But if he's doing it consistently, it's not a problem, right? So, and he's cheap enough and to be an enabler for a lot of guys. Like, I don't think he's super hard to get into, even with his price rises over the last couple weeks.
Yeah. I think in the sense of looking at his season on the whole and trying to understand, okay, is like, where is he at in that, right? Is he going to be consistent is really the question. Obviously, of the early season where Villa really struggled in general, you know, whether you attribute that to him or not is neither here nor there. And then in game week 6 through 8, he had 3 returns in 3 weeks, blanked again for another 3. And then really what like has him on anyone's radar is in 16 and 17 back-to-back 2-goal games. But to your point, Mac, you know, has had 1 return in the last 5. Yeah, I don't know if I think of him as a consistent player. And I say that in the sense of he's kind of likened to me in how I'm worried Foden is, right? Of like a couple of really massive weeks where he got hot and a question of like, can he keep that stuff up? I'm not saying that that's necessarily the case. I don't know. I just mean like, you know, to your point of overperforming, I guess I'm asking, what do you do with a player like that where you know they have this sky high potential, like between him and Foden? I think it's the same question. But they blank for a while. Like, do you hold the faith? Do you get rid of them and hope that you can get them back when they do have that hot hand again? I don't know. I don't know what the answer is, to be honest.
Yeah, I know you're asking.
Yeah, you go Sharp.
So I was like, just, I know you're asking in general. I think a lot of it comes down to the fixtures that he has ahead of him and confidence that will allow him to turn it around. And when we're comparing those two guys, like Foden has so many other reasons to not go for him with the amount of attacking threats and people that they currently have at City, that would steer me further away from him than I would be of Rodgers, along with a price difference. Like Max said, Rodgers is honestly like a pretty easy price to get into. So it's more so that I don't see someone else right now that I'm like, wow, I really want instead of him.
Yeah.
But if you don't have him, I understand not looking specifically there too.
Especially because the next 3 games with Bournemouth, Brentford, and Newcastle are relatively challenging, right? I think that I completely
think really
agree.
it's only Newcastle. I think the other 2 I'd be totally fine
honestly,
with.
you're totally right. And what it really comes down to for me is just that Villa are a good team, and we've talked all season about the talisman syndrome. And last year it was kind of Ollie Watkins, and he's been on the end of a couple more goals this year. But for the most part, it really just is Morgan Rodgers' team this year. He's playing pretty much every minute of every game, so you're at least guaranteeing the minutes. And he's kind of getting on the end of things when they do happen. So in that regard, if you have to take a punt, I don't mind having him week to week when it's between like him or somebody else. It's usually him that wins out for me.
Sure. Yeah. I think Ollie Watkins is another one to talk about. In terms of his underlying numbers, he's been doing a lot better as of late, not so much in this game, but in the last 4 or 5 games, he's had over half an XG. So he's been getting a little bit more consistent in that sense, but yet to see if he's going to pop off. I think to both of your points, it's a good idea to be looking at Villa assets in the long term anyway. But the reason I'm asking this about a Rodgers is because, like, let's say I get him in next week and then he blanks for Brentford and Bournemouth, or Brentford, Bournemouth, and Brighton. Then it's like, oh, do I want to sell this player ahead of this run of Leeds, Wolves, United, West Ham, like all those fixtures? And I'm not saying there's a right or wrong answer there. I think this is kind of the cycle we get ourselves into in FPL of you get a player when they're hot, they cool off, you sell them, they get hot again, i.e. Thiago or somebody of the like. And I think along the lines of like comparing Rodgers to Foden, I heard on your point, Sharp, of his minutes might be a little less secure now that they have so many attacking players. But outside of that, they have really good long-term fixtures. He's started 19 of their 22 games. So like his minutes should be relatively secure, though who's to say? Anyway, just I'm rambling, but food for thought. These are the thoughts that are going through my head with guys like this.
It's also worth saying just like that this big spike in that game is the Morgan Rodgers shot, right?
Yeah.
He had 0.82 XG in this game. He's still kind of doing it, at least from that perspective.
And I know we're recapping, Premier League soccer, but I also just saw City lose to God knows who today because of their defense.
You
So
know, us Spurs got made fun of for having an easy run to the final last year, and I just saw Bodo Glimt dog walk City. So hold that to anyone who said that.
I mean, I think that's the perfect transition. Like, not only did they looked poor in their Champions League game today, they looked poor against United. Holland is blanked in, what is it, the last 5? Is that right?
I don't
Yeah.
know. I bring it up every week, but it's something like that.
No, it is the last 5. And it's too bad there's like not really a viable captain alternative. He hasn't really returned since game week 17. So
Yeah, he scored 1 goal in his last 5. That's what it is.
21 against Brighton. That's it.
Yeah. So you have him blanking. It brings up on the Foden topic, it brings up the point of like, okay, do we even want City assets on the whole? And I think this is a really tricky question to me because obviously they're having a bad moment, but they're still a top side, like in the world of, okay, do I want to go get a Jared Bowen, for example, on basically a player on a worse team? That doesn't seem like that's the smartest move to me, but at the same time, you know, as somebody like me who has triple City, you're like, how do I assess this? Are they getting worse, or are they just in like a little bit of a bad moment and they're going to turn it around? Obviously, none of us are going to sell Holland, but maybe it's time to start going against him captaincy wise. I think you can make arguments to sell any other player. Where are you guys at temperature wise on City?
I think it has been kind of clear where I'm at through my team. Like I did have Foden. I did have now Ruben got injured, so there's that. But the only person I've kept is Holland, and I just so happened to pick up another City asset because of Gahey, because I just had him.
Right.
But I would say you don't need anyone outside of Holland, and I personally wouldn't suggest really going for anyone outside of Holland until they get a defense back in shape and have people back there. Because until then, I think it's just going to continue. Number one, I don't want to hold any of the defenders is really the biggest thing. And then after that, it's the amount of attacking options they have up front. Who's going to be getting that ball consistently? Even before they just added more star power, it was still split, right? Like it could still be Cherky one week or it could be Foden next. So that's
just more uncertainty.
I agree. Yeah. I think that with City, they're not playing like a City team of a couple of years ago did, which was all about controlling the ball and working it around and then just having Kevin De Bruyne send in some lock pick pass and one of 15 guys could finish it. Like it's very direct this season. It's all about having your wingers run in and beat the man and pass to Holland and score, or just score themselves, or Holland runs in and scores. And
like a through ball. Yeah.
And it's a very individually reliant system. I think coupled with the fact that they've lost defensive stability because of all the injuries, like they're really just kind of vulnerable on all fronts because it's not clicking up front because Holland's tired and some of those other guys just aren't, performing to the same level they were maybe 5-6 weeks ago. And everyone was like, should we get triple City? And they're just kind of leaky. So they're not able to absorb that pressure. And I think it's resulting in these kind of games and a lot of concession of goals and losing 3-1 to Bodo Glimt today. And that was before Rodri got a red card, right? So I think what this does say, and Luke, we said we wanted to talk about this on the pod, and I don't know if it's the right time to transition to it, is like, good job, Manchester United, for winning. Fuck you for taking points off City because I don't want Arsenal to win the title. But, is what it is. But also, I'm not convinced that Manchester United is back. I mean, they looked good. There's absolutely no doubt about it. Surprise, surprise. You play Bruno Fernandes in the 10. He does amazing things, right? Like, he looked so good. But I think that this speaks just as much to how bad City is versus also how good United is. Like, watching the game, United were able to get in behind City because City wanted to play a really aggressive high line, and I didn't feel like City had the personnel to pull that off as successfully when you have someone as quality as Bruno Fernandes able to just ping passes and take advantage of that. I think it's just going to be, I'm not saying United are bad by any means, but I think it's going to be a real testament to see how they play against Arsenal, because I do not expect that game to be the same. Arsenal play borderline low block, very boring football. They're not really coming at you. And I'm curious just to see, like, if United can do that lock pick against Arsenal, great. But it's going to be a little bit of an unfair representation because this is obviously the best defensive in the league they're playing this week. But I'm just all I'm saying is that I'm a little worried, despite the positive stuff we saw from United, that like beating City 2-0 isn't as much of a statement as the scoreline suggests.
Sure. And in terms of some of their upcoming matchups, obviously you got Arsenal, which is bad no matter how you spin it, but team that feels less direct in that sense and is more of a low event team they play next in Fulham. I feel like Tottenham are a mixed bag. I don't know. You could probably speak to this better than me, but I don't know if I don't feel like they're a team where it's really back and forth basketball style. West Ham is a good one. Everton, who's to say which Everton team shows up and how Jordan Pickford's going to play. And then they go into Palace, Newcastle, Villa, which could be better for sure. So yeah, I think that's a good question of like, obviously you and I, especially as we're considering potentially wildcarding in 24, how essential are those Man United mids? Bruno, I think it feels like I think he's like a very much so a priority, which obviously for you and I, Foden opens the door for in a week, assuming we can hold him. But if you wanted to get both Bruno and Mbumo, that's where it starts to be like, all right, that'd be really difficult to do with just free transfers. So yeah, I think that's a good point. Like maybe these fixtures going forward, in terms of on the ticker, just looking at them at face value, they look pretty good, but maybe these aren't suited super well to United. And we've also seen, who knows, under a new manager, but they've been this, like, you don't really know what you can expect from them on a week-to-week basis. So it could be that Fulham really stifles them, and then they do really well against West Ham and blank against Everton or something. Like, it may just be hard to predict, but I think Bruno is essential regardless.
Yeah, so I did just like kind of shit on them, but I brought some graphics this week. It's my turn to drive. What this is the Manchester United team passing map, just kind of from the game. And what I find really interesting about that is if you look at this, there's a lot of passes through Bruno Fernandes, right? It seems like this is both attacking and defensive passes. It's that Bruno Fernandes had the most progressive passes of the team with 18. Casemiro had the next most with 11, and that makes sense. He's kind of like facilitating out of the back. Turns out that playing Kobe Mainoo as an attacking player and not a wingback is a good idea, right? But then Bruno Fernandes also had 35 passes and he had 50 passes attempted. So he's leading every pass metric. It seems very clear that Carrick said to these guys that Bruno is our guy, play through him at all costs. Keep in mind, this is both an attacking and defensive pass map. Switching graphics. This is the attacking map. It is quite clear that borderline every single attack went through Bruno Fernandes, and that has been my main issue with him this season. So I think that this lends itself to Bruno is the guy we kind of expected him to be, and turns out not playing him in like a CDM role in a 5-back is probably a good idea when you have that kind of firepower. And it gives me a lot of upside, and I think that he's someone I would strongly consider moving for, wildcard or not wildcard, especially when you're freeing up funds from probably like guys like Foden, if you're offloading City assets, or if you're not that convinced on like a Saka. It seems like an easy 1-to-1 because almost everything's going through him.
Yeah.
The last map that I have, which further illustrates that point, is just the passes made by every single player on the Manchester United team. It's kind of inverse of what I would expect, but dark color is incomplete pass. So dark color blue is incomplete forward pass. Dark red is incomplete backwards pass. And that lets you kind of see just which direction they were going at the point of the game.
Even if you didn't know the meanings of the lines, like the amount of lines on Bruno Fernandes's.
Right. And if you look at Bruno's pass map, not only is he making just a lot of passes, period, but he's making a lot of passes into the box and attempting a lot of passes in the box. And some of this just could be attributed to the fact that City's playing a high line and they're exposed, and United was very clearly able to get around that. Like if you look in the second row in the middle, you can see how Luke Shaw was clearly making a lot of passes up and they were going around Bruno. And that's sort of the same for Dallo on the right side. But it just goes to show that Bruno is clearly the guy. Like his thing is borderline colored in compared to a lot of these guys.
Yep.
So
one thing I realized I didn't look at that honestly I might go back and try to find is whether or not him and Bumo are still splitting corners in this new system. I would assume they are. But one other thing, if you want to pull up the second graphic that you had, the attacking one.
Yep.
A couple of other players to shout out that, because maybe Bumo isn't the guy that we need to be going to anymore. I mean, he's playing center forward, attacking 9 in this one. In that pass map you showed, he was kind of all over the field, as you'd imagine a forward might be coming back and going forward. But it may be that he doesn't have the same appeal as he did before, unclear. But one thing that is interesting regardless is, funny enough, now it's a player that I was planning on dumping in Dorgu is still playing that left wing. I thought, part of the reason why he was so far on the back of my bench was I didn't even know if he was going to play in this Carrick system and what have you. But he's up there playing left wing as a defender at 4.2. And then at right wing, you have Ahmad at 6.2. Obviously, I feel like the midfield right now as like an FPL meta is pretty crowded. So maybe fitting in a player like an Ahmad doesn't quite fit. But if he's 6.2 comparatively to some of the other expensive guys, it may give you an opportunity there. Anyway, all that to say, like, just because for the first half of the season, the guys who produced here were Bruno and Mbumo, and to your point, like, this helped improve Bruno's play, it may be that any one of these guys comes out as a better attacking option as well. And maybe that Ahmad becomes the other United attacker that you want to have. So in that sense, for you and I, Mac, it may actually benefit us to wait a little longer, get some better intel. Because if we wild card into a Bruno Bumo team, we might be like, oh shit, Bumo's not producing or isn't doing the role the way he's supposed to. Or, he's sharing minutes with Sesko or something along those lines. I'm not sure how this United team is going to suit up now that Amarim's gone.
Yeah, and I think you brought up a good point with Ahmad. Like last year, he went on a crazy run for a little while, and then for some reason, it seemed like Amarim just stopped trusting him. So,
I mean, he was just playing a little bit more of that like wing back, like, and it seems like under this new system, he's got a little bit more license to play like just genuine wing and attack.
Yeah. So interesting United talk. Like I started this by saying, like, I don't think United are as good as the scoreline reflects, but I also think that from an FPL perspective, like, Bruno has clearly become the talisman again, and Bruno is a good player, and he's going to do good things for that team, I think. So positive, like cautiously optimistic about the United performance in spite of the fact that they were playing against a very porous City. I'm really curious to see how they do versus Arsenal. That's obviously the best defense in the league, just again. And it'll be interesting to know, one, how Arsenal nullifies United and if that's easy to do. Because if they just shut them down, like, every other Premier League team is going to be watching that like a playbook, right? And that might be a problem. And then just two, like, if they can squeak one past Arsenal, then I'm fully on the United train. And it would be nice to see, like, all right, this is option one, but who's option two? Like, is it Bumo? Is it Ahmad? Is it Dorgu? Is Dorgu going to lose the spot and they're going to play like Xerxes on the left wing for some reason? Like,
because one game doesn't tell us a whole, like, it's such a small sample size.
Yeah, it's a data point, not a trend. So
yeah. Just to wrap things up on the City talk as well, I wanted to come back to that. Funny enough, I was thinking, Sharp, you may have fallen back into potentially the best, I don't want to say the best City asset, but a pretty good City asset in Gehi. If he comes in, I think his minutes should be pretty nailed in that back line. They seem like they really need him at the moment. Mac, you said he'll be eligible to start this weekend against Wolves. I would assume that he'll be a good defconner in that defense, same, if maybe even better than he was at Palace. Obviously, the question is, do you trust the City defense on the whole? But to the point of saying they've been leaky recently, you have Gehi coming in, you have Ain't Nori back from AFCON, so they do have a little bit more options. Doesn't necessarily mean they're going to be better. So that's piece one. But piece two with the whole City puzzle is, yes, they played today. Foden got about 70 minutes. O'Reilly played the entire game. Ain't Nori played the entire game. Holland played the entire game. Reinders played the entire game. And Turkey played the entire game. They lost in bad fashion. And now they've got the turnaround going into the weekend. So it does, especially for somebody like myself, this is incredibly pertinent. But even if you have one or two United or City assets, it really brings into question, like, what's this lineup going to look like over the weekend? And is the trend going to continue of this team being bad? Because they're playing Wolves. Wolves have shown that they've been defensively pretty stout the past few weeks. We'll see if that trend continues against City. But it entices you to play them and keep them. But the uncertainty around minutes, even for a player like Holland, who could get a rest, makes it just a weird spot to be in. And I think most are, if you have like an O'Reilly or a Foden or maybe even a Cherky or a Semenyo, you're like, all right, maybe in 24 is when I sell. But this feels like a weird week where, I don't know, are you guys of the perspective that if you do have those guys, you just start them and pray? Or are you like, hey, Foden hasn't been getting it done even without the minutes risk, like just get rid of him?
I think I'm just going to start him and play, but that's my team specific.
Sure.
I mean, I would start Holland, but I do think you should pay more attention to where your vice captainship is
Sure.
this week than other weeks.
That is a fantastic point. The one thing that I will also say is that theoretically he comes in and adds some stability.
Right.
But I mean, they got pumped by Bodo Glimt, and Glimt's not a bad team, right? You know, it's pretty cool to see some smaller teams take it to the big guys every once in a while. But I would still say that having watched both of them, Wolves are a better team than Glimt. So I'm not I'm not going on to say Wolves are an amazing team or anything like that, but with Wolves actually like putting up a fight, I'm just a little bit nervous. Now, they shouldn't have to play. City shouldn't have to play that kid. What's his name? It's Alieni.
Yeah, however you say that.
I'm not. I butchered that, I'm sure. You know, credit to him for stepping up and playing big minutes for City, but he was literally on loan to Watford in the Championship 2 weeks ago, and they recalled him because the injury situation is so bad. And then Wolves seem to have pulled a very impressive player in Mane out of their ass. No idea where they got him, but he just appeared. So, I mean, it's a risk to play a City defender for sure. And I'm not sure where I land on someone like Foden because I think he will play, but even that's a bit dicey.
Yeah, I don't know if I think him getting pulled at 70 is a good indicator that he'll probably start, I'd like to say, but who's to say? You also have players like Semenyo wasn't even in the squad today. Doku's on the bench. Ake was on the bench. So, you know, there's
Semenyo couldn't be in the squad because of the Champions League.
So even more reason why he's probably slated to start over the weekend regardless.
Mm-hmm.
So anyway, point being, like, they have a good options for rotation. Obviously today is Tuesday, so there's a decent amount of time in between games. So in theory, any of these guys could start again. Anyway, this is the pep roulette that I don't want to play. As an O'Reilly owner, I'm shit out of luck of what to do there because as much as Wolves have been better defensively, I still think I would, if I was a betting man, if I knew O'Reilly was going to play, I would play him and be like, fuck it. I think they're going to keep it clean versus this shitty ass Wolves attack, especially with a player like Gay coming in. So that would be my bet. But do I think he's going to start as somebody who just played 90 minutes midweek and whose minutes have been iffy the last few weeks anyway? Not necessarily. So I'm in a weird spot with that, but we can get to that when we get to team selection, I suppose.
If I had to put one pet bet in, I would say that Haaland gets rested this week. That's my like hot take for the week, is that Marmoush is finally back from AFCON. Haaland's clearly in need of a rest. It seems, and Marmoush had a good AFCON from what I recall. I could be wrong on that, but I'm pretty sure it was solid. I think he had a couple goals. So it seems to me like the perfect game for Haaland to get a rest. Now, I think I'd feel a lot more confident in that if they hadn't just gotten their shit kicked in by Bodo Glimt, but whatever.
Well, so I would say even the United game, dropping those points that you probably weren't expecting to drop, and now saying, okay, do I need these 3 against Wolves? Like, do I need to lock this in? Can I afford to play a Marmoush?
That's the problem, right? It's like now they're 7 points back on Arsenal. They really need to win a winnable game like this one.
Yeah.
Because then after that, they play Spurs. And Spurs own City, so that's a write-off. Then it's Newcastle, Liverpool, Fulham. So Wolves is one where they need to pick up points.
Yeah. So let's say that this won't happen, but let's say we got news that, hey, Haaland's gonna not play this week. How does that affect how you guys go about the rest of your week? Obviously, team specific. Yes, I heard you on the vice captaincy, Chip Sharp, but like, let's say your first sub wasn't that solid or something. Like, do you guys make a transfer for another player, or how are you guys going about that?
I mean, I'm bringing Barry in off the bench, baby. Let's go. Now, I would recommend everyone does the same.
It's good, Captain.
You probably should. You would have been a lot better last week. No, I do think it's worth noting if you have any City player in your team, Haaland being one of them. obviously, is to bring in someone that you feel comfortable playing off the bench. It doesn't need to be a world beater by any means, but if you don't have anyone that you're like, yeah, I could see him returning, or yeah, he could get def cons and keep it clean, or keep it clean, I should say. I would go get someone, and someone that would set you up for success long term. Obviously, don't just do it for 1 week unless you are going to be wild carding in 2 weeks. But I think you need that coverage.
What if I just transfer Holland out for a week, wild card, and bring him back in?
Dude, honestly, if you're set on wildcard 24, you should. That's the crazy thing. Like, again, that would be if we knew he was gonna not play, but that is actually like what you should do.
To get who? Unless you have multiple free.
What are you gonna do with that money? You're gonna get
Great point.
You're gonna get 15 mil back, which, by the way, would give me 17 mil in the bank. That would be insane. And then
stupid.
We'd have Holland, and then who you picking up, like DCL, like Bowen?
Yeah, seriously. I suppose who to Aston Villa? Oh, Newcastle. Yeah, no, there's nobody. Mateta's leaving, so that's like
you could get Ekatike just because they're playing Bournemouth, and maybe.
So okay, this is totally off topic, but I am just curious, where is your guys' head at for Palace assets? You brought up Mateta, like, because Guehi just left. They're a thin squad. The manager just had an all-time hissy fit. Yeah. Like, it seems to me like he was asking to get fired or something like that.
Correct.
They haven't won in the last lot of games. Like, it's been rough, and potentially Mateta's leaving too. Now, positives, they're getting Sarr back from AFCON.
And they have great fixtures. That's the annoying part.
They have great fixtures, but like, that's a thin squad that is just getting thinner.
Yeah. I certainly wouldn't be investing in defense. I think if I had their defenders, I'd probably be selling them too. Obviously, Mateta, like, if a guy's going to leave, like, you can't trust that. I think the interesting part of it, though, is like, Glasner could get sacked any day now, and that wouldn't surprise me. But let's say, so either way, when you get to this run, Burnley, Wolves, United, Tottenham, it may lend an opportunity for a player like a Sarr or a player like Pino or Brennan Johnson to take on more of a role. I think the couple times this season that we've seen a team lose their talisman, so I'm thinking of like Bournemouth losing Semenyo, I'm thinking of United losing Bruno and Bumo, and like, you've gotten burned by going for the player that stays because it's not like they've done all that much in their absence. I think ultimately it's a net negative. That being said, it still could be an opportunity to go for one of those guys. Like, if there's goals to be had, maybe it's one of them. But as of now, yeah, I'm not taking any punts there. It's just worth monitoring. I think
you bring up a good point that the fixtures are amazing, but
Cunha really just scarred this man, though, because you're not talking about to go like second Bournemouth guy. Like, you didn't do that. Don't give me that. You're just talking about Cunha not returning for you.
Well, no, but I'm just saying, like, I don't know. I was having that thought when I was watching the Bournemouth game yesterday. I was like, oh, this team's bad without Semenyo. Like, it doesn't, because I think oftentimes people are like, ooh, okay, their talisman's gone. Who's going to be on pens now? Or another good example is even like Enzo earlier in the year. You lose Palmer. Everybody goes and buys Enzo. He was fine. He didn't do all that much. Yeah, he was on pens, but anyway, I think that's an interesting thing of like, when you lose a player, does it bring more opportunity or does it just make the team shittier? And I think I lean towards the latter.
I think when Palace is losing as many as they are, it certainly makes them a lot worse.
Yeah.
It will be interesting to see how Brennan Johnson plays. I would say that's the only thing that would pique my interest out of that.
I feel like we pulled one over on the Palace, like, scouting agency or whoever is in charge of that, because Tottenham's chief complaint against Brendan Johnson, God, I lost the ability to speak. Brendan Johnson is that
Brentford Johnstone.
Yeah, Brentford Johnstone. He scores goals, but he's kind of useless off the ball. And I was scrolling through my timeline today, and I saw this random Palace person tweet like, "Oh my God, Brendan Johnson is useless. He can't control the ball. He can't run with it." And I'm like, it took 2 games for them to come to the same conclusions that we've been feeling for a little while. No, I have a lot of respect for him because he won us the Europa League. But in that talisman conversations, I think there are instances where teams lose their talisman and someone steps up, but I don't know who that would be for Palace. Like, Pino, I think has not been that great. And Brennan Johnson has been okay. Maybe it's just betting into a new team where he's being underutilized, but I'm not entirely convinced like they have somebody who's primed to step up.
Yeah, Pinot Grigio might be poop. Who knows? I will say captaincy. We were talking Holland. What are we thinking? What are we thinking? Would you like if he's gonna play, or is he an auto captain against Wolves?
I think you kind of have to put it on him against Wolves because I don't think he's going to be a guy that comes on for 30. You gotta hope that would really hurt, but I don't think he would be. So I think you're safe to put it on him, and then just have faith in your vice pick.
So who's your vice then?
Probably Ekatike right now.
I was gonna say it.
I'm not honestly though. Little Tarkowski against Leeds.
Whoa, that would be
Well, okay. So I was also just about to say, is it time for Gabriel captain again?
I just don't like it against United with how solid they were. I like Tarkowski against Leeds a little more than that.
Do we have?
He didn't even hit DEFCONs this weekend, did he?
And he put up 8.
Where did the 8 come from?
Hang on.
That's a good question. My bench.
I don't think he hit DEFCONs. So maybe
he did.
Bonus.
It was a DEFCON clean and 2 for playing.
Huh.
Yeah, he had 11 DEFCONs. He got it. Which I didn't think he was going to get because he had like 3 in the first half.
Yeah, maybe that's why. Maybe I started counting my eggs before they'd hatched.
Yeah. I brought up the teams to target projected goals graphic that you provided, Luke, just because I think it'll help us figure out this captaincy nonsense a little bit. Like if we look at the teams who are projected to score, like Arsenal, but who are you captaining from Arsenal? Rice, Saka? Probably not. Liverpool, it's probably Ekatike, or honestly maybe Verts if you have him because he's been on like kind of a tear. But I just don't think a lot of people have him. Newcastle, it could be Bruno G, but Villa's a tough game. And Chelsea.
Hey, Tottenham play Burnley.
Yeah, I mean Tottenham play Burnley, but I'd argue that these days it's more like Burnley play Tottenham than Tottenham play Burnley, right? So I don't know. I will say Spurs had a pretty great performance today against Dortmund. Like they actually looked good, but then on the flip side, Dortmund got a red card 20 minutes in. So I was actually paying attention to that game and it looked solid.
Well, hey, what was the game that we watched of Spurs a few weeks ago where the other team got a red card and then they still lost? Am I tripping? Or maybe I'm remembering that the wrong way. Maybe it was Spurs who got the
I'm having like a Kill Bill, like lights flashing, like siren in my head, like where it goes, wah, wah, wah. Like I'm getting triggered as you guys speak.
No, wasn't that happened to United, didn't it?
Was it? I think it might have been Spurs United. That sounds right to me as well. I'm trying to remember what the game was, but I think maybe Spurs were the one with the red card. Anyway, I can't remember. Point being, good for them. Yeah, I hear you on the captaincy. Sharp, you got to go Barry versus Leeds. It's easy money,
dude. I'm kicking it around. Don't get me wrong. I mean, let's look at where's Villa at on here. They're just right above there, 129, and I could easily put Barry in for Rodgers right there.
Bang. Not on the captaincy discussion, but I do think we should talk about Chelsea. I think maybe these projected goals. One thing that we've seen throughout the years, like markets aren't quick to catch up on trends, and Palace look pretty ass. So I honestly think Chelsea could do pretty well. I wanted to touch on them really briefly as well as we talk about whether they're, obviously knowing that they have such good fixtures for a while, whether any of their assets are buys. Do you feel like this game gave you guys any more clarity about which players to go for? Obviously, Palmer takes the pen. They beat Brentford 2-0. Thank God, Thiago. This is the first week in a while that haven't had to say Thiago scored and made us all want to cry. But yeah, do you guys have any interest in these players? And if so, where?
I'm unfortunately looking at JP. I'm seriously considering bringing JP back in. And just because for what I sent you guys, I mean, yes, there's a big jump between Thiago and then getting down to Bowen and JP and DCL in terms of points on the season. But João Pedro's still the 4th highest scorer, only 1 point behind Bowen with 92. These fixtures are what they are, and I need to get out of Ekatike. Like, I don't have faith in him going forward. So it's either him or Thiago to me right now. I'm like, do I take a chance and continue just is Brentford point chasing? Is he on his decline now? Like, had to hit sometime, and JP is going to be a little more consistent. That'd be crazy.
Yeah, that'd be kind of tight.
Like, what are the Brentford fixtures coming up? So it's Forest, which honestly maybe Thiago is the captain option this week because they're playing Forest, who have not looked good. But then it's Villa, Newcastle, Arsenal. So if you are picking up Thiago, it doesn't seem like a great week to do it. It almost seems like I'd pump the brakes on them until like 27 when they're through Arsenal, and then it's Brighton, Burnley, Bournemouth, Wolves, Leeds. So that's an amazing run again, but they are souring a little bit.
I think we can afford to do that. Totally feel that. I need to get out of Ekatike because I need money to get up to
No, I
Bruno.
have them too.
Yeah.
I actually think the Thiago call is a great one, Mac. I think that would be, if you had him, this is the week to do it.
But so, okay, I actually looked at a forum table today and I'm like kind of on the side seeing if I can pull it up again. In the last 5, Bournemouth have both scored the most goals and conceded the most goals. And I think it's like 12 and 14.
No, that's why I think I honestly might just go Ekatike.
Yeah, maybe it is just
regardless.
an Ekatike game because Bournemouth just can't keep a clean sheet.
Yeah. To be fair, straight up, I did not watch the Liverpool game this weekend, so I can't say like how he actually looked, but his XG is pretty disgusto from the weekend. He had 0.67 XG, 0.53 XA. So very unlucky, Sharp. Sorry to say.
It's whatever. I hate watching that team so much.
I took us off the rails a little bit, but how are we feeling about Chelsea?
Yeah, so I wanted to hear your perspective on that, Mac, because I know you're relatively passionate that they didn't look good under Rosinha. And I think that's like the big question to me is how does each individual player look then? I personally feel like Palmer, I still just don't know if I can trust the minutes, not at least not enough to go there like really soon. He takes the pen, which good for him, I suppose. But really the players that I'm interested in are players like, yes, João Pedro, players like Enzo. Potentially, maybe we've been overlooking some of these wings like Garnacho or Neto, and then defensively with Chalobah or the like, whoever you want in that group, I suppose, but probably Chalobah.
Yeah. My problem is with Palmer is just that he has been injured, and therefore I'm not entirely sure what that's going to look like from a consistency standpoint. Like I want to go there, but Palmer had some pretty good XG when you look at this game just purely based on numbers. But I'll probably actually just share my screen real quickly rather than putting a screenshot. This is the Opta Match Center. As soon as I get it up, thank you for the assist. Look at the amount of shots that Brentford had as compared to the amount of shots that Chelsea had. Not only that, but so this is the Garnacho. This was a miss, and it's pretty close to the goal. But beyond that, João Pedro scores this 0.08 XG goal.
Right.
And then they had 6 total shots, one of which is a pen.
Yeah.
And
that's what the previous chart we were looking at showed as well, right? Like Brentford had a bunch of different little bumps of XG, and Chelsea was like 3 big opportunities that kind of drove everything.
Yeah, and you could say like maybe there's an argument to be like, all right, well, it's better to have a couple good chances than it is to have a lot of low quality ones, right?
Yeah.
This is the Chelsea passing network. They're almost entirely in their half. So I don't know if Rosinha is trying to like play the possession game and then make runs. Like these types of graphics don't do a good job at showing the runs made. But it just makes me a little bit nervous that like they're going a lot through their right defensive mid and like less through Palmer than I'd like. And it seems like there is a good amount of action through the left mid. So maybe then, Garnacho's one of the guys to look at and we are overlooking it. But this graphic just isn't as compelling.
Yeah.
To me,
it's like the United one we were.
It's like the United one where it was all through like one guy clearly, and this is the attacking map. Like these dots are barely connected. It really seems like from both my eye test and this pass map that they're kind of just getting the ball around the halfway line and then running it up the field, and that does not scream to me sustainability, right? This is the individual passing map from Chelsea players. You can see that, well, there was a lot of good passes. a lot of the passes were from the defenders, actually. Like Cole Palmer has
Robert Sanchez is just cleaning up.
Robert Sanchez is just clearing them long, right? Like he's clearly been told to just boot the ball. Chalaba's got a good amount of passes out from the back. Reece James has got a good amount of passes. So if Robert Sanchez is getting, it seems like he's either distributing to one of the back line or just booting it. Fairly standard goalie tactics there. I know that's brilliant insight. But then, like, the further up the pitch you go, like, there's far less involvement, which is almost the opposite of the United guys. Pedro Neto, fairly involved, but it looks like he's just kind of spamming crosses in from the right side.
Yeah.
Cole Palmer's making a lot of sideways and backwards passes. Garnacho is doing similar things, barring a couple crosses across the box, and then João Pedro's barely involved. So I'm not saying that Chelsea are a bad team, but I don't see the vision yet, despite them winning 2-0. I felt like watching this game, Brentford could have won this game by like 5. And another player we were considering, just to zoom in, is Enzo Fernandez, who like a lot of people I think are going to be moving to because he's a cheap enabler and probably the guy outside of Palmer. He's not making a lot of passes directly in the box, so I'm not sure what his route to points are going to be right now, because it looks like he's playing further back and they're trying to do more of a build-up style. So I said a lot of words. In summary, I didn't see a lot out of Chelsea this week that said, hey, all of a sudden we were being held back by Maresca's defensive system and now we're firing all cylinders because we have that freedom that is like United has, where they're just being enabled.
Well, and I think fixtures breed form, right? Mm-hmm. So, but what that tells me is, famous last words, but it's probably not the week to go get a Chelsea asset. Let's get more data points. Let's look at this again next week after they play Palace and have a better understanding of, all right, where are the points actually going to come from? Because I would love to say that everything you just said says, okay, there isn't a specific attacker who shouts out at me, so maybe we should go defense. But they didn't. It's not like they were stout. Yes, they kept it clean against Brentford, but it wasn't like they were stout. They led a lot of big chances in, and Sanchez probably had a pretty solid game. Mm-hmm. So yeah, it just makes me say, okay, we can get at least one more data point. But I do think once you go into West Ham, Wolves, Leeds, and Burnley in 4 in a row, 1, if not 2 of them should definitely be coming in. As of now, if I had to gun to my head, I would just go Enzo. But maybe the answer is Chalobah. I'm not sure.
Well, and I said a lot on why you shouldn't get Chelsea, but keep in mind we're overanalyzing one game, right? Because we just have such little information about how they're going to play. It's highly possible that it just hasn't clicked yet. It's highly possible that
against Brentford specifically,
it's against Brentford, who's been pretty on fire relatively. Like they're actually looking at getting a Europe spot, which is amazing. Chelsea has a Champions League game tomorrow, so we'll get to see them against Paphos. And Paphos are not very good, at least in Champions League this year, but it should give us more of a feel for how they're planning on setting up. And then that should also give us a feel for how they're planning on taking on teams that they theoretically should dominate, right? So there's a lot more data to be gained. I think the other thing I will say, though, is if you look at a lot of the highly owned players this week, it's kind of a midweek from a fixture standpoint. So the Chelsea upside is there if you can do it. Like it might just be the week to take a punt on the Chelsea player, even lacking confidence, because at least it's a good game.
Yeah.
And to Luke's point, we may have been overanalyzing it, and Enzo scored or returned in 3 of the last 4. And I know it's a new manager system, but he just seems so consistent and still very much a part of that passing attack, whether it be further back or not, that I think he is a defensive upside with keeping that extra clean sheet. Possible, I don't know, DEFCONs could get thrown in there occasionally, but then you have the attacking returns that can be there. So for a 6.5 guy,
yeah,
I mean, that's pretty solid. There's a world where I make a transfer for him this week. So yeah. I'm not saying that I'm out. I'm just saying that I was not as impressed as I expected to be for Chelsea is my overall conclusion.
Yeah, fully understand that. Yeah, the most informed guys right now in the midfield is actually just kind of funny because I was just looking at Chelsea in general and seeing where they're at. But you have Schade up there for Brentford. Then you have
crazy.
I know, and then it's Verts, which I also think is crazy. And then you got Bruno G's random tap-ins, and then you got cheap Garner and Brendan Aronson, and it's just a crazy top group. Like I don't think a lot of people would have that combo of players.
So do we remember how earlier in the season, like very beginning of the season, it was all about the defense, and then people started scoring again. And we're like, hell yeah, goals are back on the menu. Based on no data, it kind of feels to me like goals are back off the menu. Like
That's definitely how it feels, and I think this is very reminiscent of early in the year, but I don't know if that's a trend. I wonder if it's just more of a like happenstance. I think part of it's that Holland is cooled off. I don't know. I think Ekitike has been unlucky to get some more returns. Foden's cool. Like, yeah, maybe you're right though. I guess as I'm walking through this, I'm like, yeah, like that guy's cooled off. That guy's cooled off. That guy's cooled off. So yeah, maybe that is true, but.
Because if I just sort midfielders real quickly by total points rather than form, like it's still Rice, but I think everyone would say he's kind of cooled off. Semenyu's cooled off by nature of switching teams, so that's not really fair. Bruno G is up there both in the form table and the total points table. Bruno Fernandes has been injured. Then it's like Wilson, Rogers, Foden, Saka. But like a lot of the guys I'm listing feel like they've kind of cooled off. So maybe it's just not that goals are down. Maybe it's just that the guys have switched, as is typical of a season. But
well, and we've got a lot of the AFCON guys coming back, so that's probably going to add some spice to it as well. Put some more attack in theory. Yeah, this puts us in an interesting spot. I think we've talked about everything that I want to talk about, but I think I want to get into transfer plans.
Okay.
Sharp, do you want to kick us off?
Sure. Mine should be probably the easiest or most straightforward conversation. Yep, cool. So honestly, have a team that I can very easily start this week. Like there's not a ton or really a single game where I'm like, ooh, I'm really scared about that one. Bruno G and Morgan Rogers having to play each other is like the only thing that I could foresee being a problem, but it's still not like it's defense on offense. So kind of is what it is there. I feel very confident in the Leeds game, a game against Leeds, and Arsenal is still Arsenal. Saka is on my radar right now to get rid of and free up some cash going forward, but it's not going to be this week. And then I still have, if Gahey does play, he's right there. Barry, I still honestly feel confident against Leeds. So I have two guys off the bench here that I could play too. The captaincy chip will move over to Holland. I know it's on Ekitike right now, and the vice captain will be on Ekitike. So unfortunately, I think I'm talking myself into a role, but the real reason that I'm thinking about that is I need to get money into next week, so I could get Ekitike out. It's just that Bournemouth, like we've talked about, is so up and down that he might actually have some shit open up for him, which would be really nice to see. But I would go to a Thiago or a JP and be set there and then be able to take whoever I really wanted to. Probably would be Bruno G at that point, up to Bruno Fernandes. But if I hold Ekitike this week, I might just be taking Saka down next week and free up cash that way too. I don't know. It would give me, I guess, a little more option to think about going forward. But it's all really trying to get to Bruno or whatever mid I want next week. So a long way of saying I'm probably going to roll, to be honest with you.
So you don't have Barry in right now.
I know. That's when Holland gets subbed out.
Also, Gahey, like, are you set on that one?
Like keeping him?
Like
no, I mean not playing him this week.
I don't know. I mean, who do you want to? I could take Rogers out. I think would be my first guy I would take out, and then.
Or
Robinson. I think you can do that.
I like my Fulham boys.
Yeah, I don't think you can go Rogers for Gahey. I'm just saying for defender, so it would be Robinson, right? Or yeah, one of those guys.
Well, I mean, I can put Gahey in for Rogers if I wanted.
Oh, I'm dumb.
So Robinson
that would take me to 4 defenders, not 2.
I mean, I like Robinson. Don't get me wrong. Shout out the men's national team, but he's got 2-2, 1-2, 8, 10. So his returns were against Forest and West Ham, and I'd argue Brighton is a significantly better team than that.
I know. It's they should have had that clean last week,
and
that would change that narrative.
I actually don't think he played the first time they played Brighton, but that was 1-1. So they did concede against Brighton the last time they played. So I don't know. That I feel like there's a lot more upside to playing Gahey over Robinson, I guess, but still doesn't fit Barry in.
Well, Barry's tricky though, because I mean, yes, he's returned, so I'm not trying to take that away, but he's not playing the full games, right? He's playing mostly.
No, it was pretty much just the Burnley game where I started him. I got really upset. That's when he didn't play the full game.
Yeah,
It
I'm a
seems
little
like
behind. I'm
he's-
back when he was playing like 60 minutes.
It
as
seems
a-
like
Then he
earlier
started-
in the season they were like splitting games, him and
Yeah.
Beto, and then since one of them discovered how to shoot, it seems like Barry's kind of locked down that spot, and now he's gone 6-6-2-8, and against a pretty porous Leeds, I think that there's a good chance he goes again. It's
I
just
will-
the
Yeah,
XG has been terrible.
The ironic part is I can't remember if it was Brentford or I think it was Brentford, where they were just like playing like shit. Beto was the only one on that entire field that was doing jack shit and like looking good. And I was like, oh god, there goes Barry's minutes. But they haven't taken him out yet. So
Yeah, and this is an interesting week where they're playing Leeds, but they also, in theory, should have Ndai back. So maybe
That's
the
what I was
attack
just
gets
about to
boost.
say. Doesn't Die come back, and does that help Barry, or does it hurt him?
I think it's got to help him because this, like, truthfully, if it wasn't for Ndai coming back, I know he has returned a bit. I would just be like, I'm not going to bet on Everton scoring a goal, because they just didn't have any options. But if they have Ndai and somebody to actually help feed him outside of just Grealish, like, I think that's a good opportunity. Because early in the season, it was Ndai cross in, Ndai cross in, Ndai cross in, and a forward just couldn't score it. So in theory, if he's getting able to whip the balls in, I actually think that's a positive for Barry. So
Do
yeah,
we
I can
know? Sorry, I totally interrupted you. Finish up.
no, that's it.
Do we know if this is a home or away game for Everton? It's home,
Home.
right? It's worth noting that Leeds are 18th for away form.
Yeah,
do you guys just really want me to play Barry?
I just don't want you to leave more points on the bench, man.
the funny thing is, you
Okay,
might.
so who would you guys put Barry and or Gahey in for?
I was going to say the funny thing is, if Haaland gets benched, then you're set. He'll just
Right.
go right in.
Yeah, if Holland gets benched, Barry's going in, so it doesn't really matter.
Technically, right now, he's going in.
I guess he's going in. Yeah. I mean, I think that the only real question is like, how much do you trust one of those Arsenal guys against United, or how much do you trust one of those Newcastle Villa guys who are playing against each other?
Yeah,
So just question your entire midfield, actually.
I think I would put Gahey in for Robinson, move Robinson to second on your bench, and then it's really between one of those two for me, Rogers or Bruno G, to put Barry in for. And I think you could pick any one of those three.
I think you should captain Barry.
I'm actually going to captain Ekatike, by the way, for sure.
Yeah, no shot. You are.
I am. It's on him right now. It's going to happen.
I just don't believe you.
Yeah, I don't think that's gonna hold. We'll see in 3 days.
I
I like all those opinions. Do we really think Gahey's gonna play like a full game?
yeah,
Yes,
that's
I really do. I think they
You
need
do?
him. I think because they've dropped points so significantly in the last two, like you said it earlier, they need these points, and they might play Holland. Like Holland might just need to play because of the point chasing, but I also think that they just really need to play someone for either Kushlanov or Aliin, because those guys just aren't doing it.
I'm going to be hitting refresh on that Pep press conference so hard, even though it's going to tell me nothing. But
Are we
not
going to
gonna
learn before the deadline? When did City play?
oh, like a leak? No, I mean, even when they have played early, I haven't seen a leak all season for them. But in your case, Sharp, he actually may say something meaningful about Gahey.
Well, I hope someone lets me know.
Okay, I can.
Luke, we've approached this wrong. We know that he doesn't listen to us, so we got to say, "Don't play Barry. Don't play Barry. Whatever you do,
No.
don't play him." Oh, did you put him in?
We've made some changes.
See, the fact that you're a Muppet with technology is ridiculous because we can't see this live. Like, who did you sub him for?
Oh, all right, uncalled for. I thought you could see it on my little screen here.
Yes,
I
in that
just-
little 1x1 window.
I feel like my grandmother is on this podcast half the time.
I put Gahey in for Robinson and then put Barry in for Newcastle or for Rogers. Jesus.
Watch us influence him to have like 17 points on the bench again.
Yeah, no, this is 100% what's going to happen. This is why I
Yeah.
couldn't make a decision.
Well, now you're in that mode of like, probably in the back of your mind, you're like, I'm gonna leave points on the bench. Like that's just like sitting there regardless.
Yeah, it's expected at this point.
Okay, I'll go next. I also am thinking of a role, but I definitely could be convinced otherwise. I think even if I do roll, I have so many decisions in here in terms of benching that I'm nervous about, mainly around O'Reilly and Foden and whether they play, and Holland, I suppose. So yeah, I could be convinced to go make a transfer for a player like Enzo, to your point, Mac. Like, I think that is not a bad play, but I think it kind of hinges on whether I wild card next week, because if I'm going to wild card next week, I honestly think I could just hold off on the transfer, roll it through, and make all the changes then. Because part of the trade-off with a wild card 24 is you're going to need a shit ton of transfers to be able to get through all those blanks and doubles at the end of the year. So I'd want to be rolling as much as humanly possible after wild carding that team. So if I can take another transfer into that, I would love to do so, is the point. O'Reilly is currently like in the starting lineup against Wolves. He played the full game again today, so I am not optimistic about him starting and or playing significant minutes. So in previous weeks, he's done that and has screwed me over by playing like 17 minutes and conceding 16 goals. So I could just play Rodon versus Everton. And that's okay. But I mean, we're just sitting here talking about how Barry could haul. And so it's like, it never feels good to play a Leeds defender. Last week, I got burned by not playing him because they kept it clean against Fulham, but that feels like the exception to the rule. So I could make a transfer at defense. Like I could do a Chalobah. I have plenty of money in the bank. I could do somebody like an Enzo in for like a Bruno G, or I could do that for like Foden and then just use the money I have saved to take Bruno G up to Bruno Fernandes the following week or something like that. Anyway, those are options for this week, and I can explain more once you see like whether or not I should wildcard, but I'd love to hear your thoughts before I say that.
I think it's funny we're talking about getting rid of Bruno G. His price just went up tonight. Like people clearly are wanting him. So
He's not bad, dude. Like he's really not. I was just looking at that too. I was like, should I get rid of him?
Oh, and he was one.
I don't think
he was almost the hero again. Like he almost put one past Wolves right at the end.
He had multiple big chances in that game. I was watching and I was like, damn, I don't really get it, but he's still.
I think his roles changed.
Yeah.
Feels like he's playing differently, and we're gonna have to bring on our expert Connor again, or just I'll talk to him or something, because I don't know why he's playing, but he's just been playing way differently.
Yeah. So that being said, I wouldn't necessarily make him a priority transfer. Like I would feel very comfortable with that, even though it's Villa. I don't feel good about your defense. Like last week, I know I was telling you to play Rodon. Maybe it's the Barry bias, but I don't love playing a Leeds defender in that spot, especially after just cleaning. Maybe Liverpool got them in some great defensive form. They started there and they're going to keep it going. But I don't think that's the case. I would look at making a transfer, any of O'Reilly, Rodon, or Dorgu out.
See, Dorgu's the one where I actually don't think I'm going to transfer him out because of what we were talking about earlier. He's playing
which is fair.
Now,
and he's 4-2.
Neither here nor there. Yeah.
No, you're right. That's totally fair. He's 4-2. I'm not worried about him, but you're not going to play him this week, I guess is the point. So 100%. Even more of a reason to get rid of a Rodon or an O'Reilly. I would go O'Reilly just because we've talked about the City assets, but also because it gives you more cash and flexibility to do something with.
The only thing I'll say, sorry, is that Leeds have a minus 13 goal differential away and a plus 6 goal differential home. So it doesn't feel like a good week for Rodon to clean.
For sure. I think so. Let's talk really briefly. I'll wrap it back around because, okay, sure, I make an O'Reilly transfer, but it's a question of to who, and a lot of that, whether I make that transfer and who to depends on whether or not I wild card. So I really briefly want to touch on that. So here is my latest wild card draft. Could feel free to pick it apart. That's not really where I'm bothered, but it's more so to say like, here's what I could do in 24. It's not insanely different. It's really not. But the reason why I've been going back and forth on whether or not I'm going to do this, I'm probably at about 50-50 right now. And part of the reason for that is, so obviously here you have two United mids, have Watkins in for Ekatike. That could be somebody else. You have double Chelsea and Chalobah and Enzo. Switch around your triple Arsenal. But other than that, like it's not crazy different. The only reason why I'm like enticed to do this is that when I look at, okay, if I wasn't going to wild card and I plan ahead to 24, this is that. Yeah, thank God. I was like, is this the same picture? No. So this is like what I could do with, I think in this instance, I'm using all of my transfers, and I'm not taking a hit. So I could take a hit and get an additional player in. But point being, I don't have a player like Mbumo. I don't have a Chalaba. I don't have who else am I missing? I suppose I don't feel like I have the ideal Arsenal triple up, what have you. So I think the 3 transfers I make here are Ekitike to Watkins, Bruno Guimaraes to Enzo, and Foden to Bruno. So that's fine with me, and I think this team looks okay, but I just feel like I'm behind. I still have a player like O'Reilly. I still have Bowen, so I could take a hit and get any one of those guys. Like I could just, in this instance, take a hit for O'Reilly to Chalaba. And so anyway, bringing that back to this, right? Like I should, if that's the case, if I'm not going to wild card, I should probably just do like O'Reilly to Chalaba right now. That would make the most sense because that's probably who I want in the long term. But if I am wild carding, either it makes sense to just roll and ride this week out and say, okay, I'm taking a little bit of an L in defense and we're going to just make all the changes next week. Or it's something like, okay, I pick somebody who's has a really high clean sheet odds this week in for O'Reilly that I don't necessarily want in the future. Anyway, a lot of words.
How are you feeling about Watkins?
I actually, well, go ahead.
I guess why would Chalaba not do both of those things for you? Or can you just not get to him?
I mean, he's playing Palace this week. I guess that is a good
He's
fixture.
playing a depleted no one Palace.
Yeah.
I mean, like
I don't even know if Mateta's going to play. Yeah. So maybe that does solve both of them.
I guess that's where I would.
Yeah. I was kind of hoping that going into this game week and like whatever decision I make that I would know whether or not I'm in a wild card. And I feel like, to your point, doing like a Chalaba probably, if anything, guns me towards not wild carding even more. Just because I'm burning a transfer, I'm getting closer to the team I want, so it probably incentivizes me to just take like a hit or something and get pretty close. I think really the main difference between those two is like how much do I want like an Mbumo? Because I think from here, this is without wildcarding, it's difficult to get to somebody like that. It would be like a multi-move, like long-term look, which maybe is fine. Like maybe that's totally fine.
I think to Mac's point, he asked the right question. Do you think Watkins is a must transfer in that time frame? You have theoretically invested 3 strikers. So
no, I think it was that I needed money to get, or I guess not because I got Watkins. I was gonna say, I guess not. I think it was more just like, okay, I need to get rid of Ekitike. Like I don't really want him anymore long term was probably where my headspace was at on that. But I hear your point.
Yeah, I get that, but I think maybe that's where Mac was going to. Correct me if I'm wrong. But you could save that transfer, not wild card, and use it on someone else rather than Ekitike, or use on Ekitike to go down further and then flip in one of those guys for a small hit. Like I don't think that's a big deal.
I like that. Yeah. Okay. So maybe I'm not wild carding. Oh, it's so much less exciting. I want a wild card.
I mean, I say you do it. Like, go for it. Take more hits.
But like, so I'm in for it in terms of the like fuck it mentality. Like I'm very there on that part of it. But I just, if I'm going to do something like get a Chalaba in right now, then I'm like so close that I'm just like it seems like an inopportune time to use it then. And it, like looking ahead at some of the blanks and doubles, I will need it. Or it would be nice to have it, I suppose. Yeah, wow. These aren't different enough, I don't think, unfortunately. And like even keeping some of these guys maybe is good differentials. Like the fact that even in this one I have Dorgu in both of them, I feel like is a funny like, damn, I really should just keep that dude. Anyway, all right. So I hear you. I think you might have worked me over. I honestly might just do O'Reilly out. It does feel weird though, right? To say O'Reilly's playing Wolves, potentially the worst attack in the Prem, and I'm transferring him out. And unfortunately, I don't think there's going to be any clarity going into that game enough to know what to do with him. So I probably do have to transfer him out. Okay. I appreciate the help. Fucking, I hate, but it's my least favorite answer. So
that's our bad.
All right, Mac.
Did you keep the bus teams in, or do I need to share my screen?
I don't think you put one in.
How dare you use your logic on me?
I saw sharp and I put ours in.
Foulies.
And this lull, please direct your attention to our top corner. Shout out to our sponsor, StreamYard.
I hate this bit. I hate it. It's my least favorite bit.
It's
funny how
actually my
much it annoys
favorite bit.
Okay, so team talk.
Yeah, that's good.
I
5 at the
initially
back, baby.
this is my initial lineup, right? Just looking at it, the back line is pretty solid. I mean, I have Tarkowski and Pickford against who I've been saying the away form leads, which has just not been great. And I would really love like not having a double clean sheet wipe, especially when I left Tark on the bench. And like it's kind of annoying that Tark does not return against Wolves and then does against Villa, but whatever, neither here nor there. Van de Ven versus Burnley. The reason I brought him in is because I wanted to play him for obviously West Ham and then Burnley, and then wildcard him out as like a Gahey situation. Keep in mind, I have 1 transfer and 1.8 in the bank. So pretty much every player is achievable for me if I wanted to use that transfer this week. Things that I'm nervous about. I do not have a deep bench. Obviously, I still have KDH, who's injured. And if like Foden with his broken hand doesn't play and Haaland doesn't play, I mean, I'm out of players. I'm not fielding an 11, right? We can't sub in Dubravka. So that's not great. Now,
you still have Dewsbury Hall. That is insane.
You know, the benefit of him not being high owned is that he never fell in price. So it's just not been a priority. I mean, he fell in price once, but like keep in mind again, I have 1 point in the bank. My incentive or my initial thought was don't transfer because I want a wild card in 24. Right. I still think I'm leading towards that, and therefore I'd want to carry the transfer out to the other side in case we learn dramatically new information. But at the same time, I'm just a little nervous about not having at least 2 guys on the bench when there's so much uncertainty on who's going to play. And I don't feel amazing about this team. Like, if I were to play Rodgers, who am I subbing him for? Potentially Bruno G. Yeah.
Or maybe
or Chow.
Yeah. I would say Chow, but dude, Newcastle have actually been doing the thing recently. They've been doing very well.
Yeah.
Yeah, they've been a little more defensively solid somehow.
Fucking what, 4-3 against Leeds? What was that?
Yeah, that's
like a fair point. All right, come on.
But
yeah, they kept Wolves. It clean against Palace, who has no one we've established, and
this
Wolves?
is true.
And then gave up 3 on Leeds.
No, this is true. All right, fair counterpoint. Point taken.
But I mean, Rodgers is just as inconsistent going the opposite direction, right?
For sure.
So that one's tricky.
I think he would actually be the guy that I would suggest. Like, if you were to do it, I think you get, but that doesn't really, I don't know if this helps your problem or not. I guess it doesn't. But what I would do is get aggressive and take Rodgers up to, could you get up to, I don't know if you want Bruno this week, obviously with Arsenal.
Well, that's
get up to someone like you could go Wirtz if you're feeling him.
That's not a bad play. I kind of don't hate that.
I feel like that's a bad play.
I mean, okay, but the thing is, he's the second highest in form mid right now.
No, you're right. And if it doesn't work, I
hate
wild
when
card
you
him
use
out.
In form, it makes me want to blow my brains out. Continue. Sorry.
I'm sorry, you don't like form
and fixtures, baby. Gonna get that tattooed on my forehead one of these days.
How to not end up at 1.2 form and fixtures.
Right.
I'm gonna kill myself and then you.
Fair.
One bullet, two people. Yeah, no, like I said, so everybody is basically achievable for me. So I could bring in Enzo if I wanted this week. I could bring in Cole Palmer if I wanted this week. I could bring in Bruno Fernandes if I wanted this week. Like, so in that regard, there are some absolute punts that I could take. Like Rodgers versus Newcastle maybe isn't the move. I mean, like I could bring in Enzo and just solve the Dewsbury Hall problem and then just have 2 bench spots. I don't know. I'm nervous.
I like that too. I don't like that. I don't hate the Enzo play. But you just hyped me up on Barry. Why don't we take a little Mark Guihi down there and take him on up to Barry?
Guihi.
Yeah.
Guihi.
That's
okay. Wait, hang on. Can I look at this really quickly? I just want to think about like if you were going to if you're going to go to somebody aggressive this week. Like,
I don't think Bruno Fernandes is the right move.
No, I think Verts is.
No, I wasn't going to say Bruno Fernandes. Yeah, I honestly think Sharp might be right on the Verts play. But I don't think, to your point, Sharp, that doesn't really solve his problem. Like going Rodgers to Verts, I don't feel like is like.
I think it gives you more upside and gives you, I mean, it just puts Chow on the bench, I guess, is really all it does.
Yeah.
But
I mean, Rodgers is 30% owned this week, so I'm going to get punished huge if I don't play him. I would also be losing some value by
actually,
him out.
that's such a well. You should at least play him then because he's on my bench, so he will score.
Fair point. Also, if you've noticed the pattern with Verts, he goes 10-3, 10-3, so he's going to get 3 this week. So read the signs, guys.
I will say, like, to the camp of rolling, I feel like the odds of neither Holland nor Foden playing are slim. One of them not playing is possible, but I feel like both of them getting benched would be kind of wild. And in which case, like, you're not the only one that's fucked. Like, that'd be a lot of people. So obviously, that's not a good reason to not do something. But
yeah, I'm not that nervous about that. I think what I'm trying to decide is, like, is there a better way for me to make an aggressive play this week?
Right.
Into a wild card.
Even get Barry. Sorry. You already have 3 fucking Everton players.
Yeah.
Oh, true.
I mean, I wasn't probably going to play him anyways. Like,
all right, that's uncalled for.
Oh, you know what could be a play? What about Ndai from Dewsbury Hall?
And we're that confident, but that doesn't seem as good as like an Enzo.
Yeah. I don't know, versus Leeds.
I mean, you're right. I mean, look at this guy. He's blanked in 6 games. Fucking loser. No, I mean, I was singing the Ndai praises earlier, but I just felt like he was relatively inconsistent. Like, he did haul a couple times, but it wasn't like he was putting up monster numbers. And I just
it's true.
As much as I talked
down,
but
neither is Enzo is the funny thing. Like, he puts up monster underlying numbers, but doesn't actually put up like good FPL numbers.
I know, but at least these fixtures are amazing. That's the problem with Chelsea. Like, the fixtures.
But you don't care if you're wildcarding. You actually don't care. It's about the fixture this week. That's it.
No, you're right. It's a fair point, and so that's why I'm going in a circle because simultaneously everybody is achievable for me this week because I have 1.8 mil in the bank, and I just have nothing to do with it. I'm like, what am I gonna do? The only guy I'd have to move on right now is if I wanted to go for Bruno for Rodgers, I'd have to do that probably tonight, in case his price rises again, or I'll just track the price this week. So but that's like such an aggressive move because I can still just get him versus Foden or like Enzo for Dewsbury Hall. I don't have Wilson. He's another guy I was potentially looking at, but their fixtures are also only okay. So.
Again, what are you doing looking at fixtures? Like, are you 100% set on wildcarding? Because in which case, like, actually, what are you doing looking at fixtures?
Well, the thing is, I'm not 100% set on wildcarding. So the reason I need to be smart with this transfer is because next week, if I find out that Chelsea stinks and Manchester United can't play against a team that plays a low block, which, newsflash, that's 75% of the league this year, then I have to abort the mission for wildcard. I want to at least make sure I'm not backing myself into a corner, kind of like I did with this Van de Ven one, where he's loading up to play City, United, Newcastle, Arsenal in the next 4. So Tottenham aren't getting relegated yet, but they certainly might be looking like they're getting relegated coming out of 30.
Okay, so in that sense, then I do think the play, something that similar to what Sharp, the advice he gave me is like do something that would be fine in both camps, which is either Dewsbury Hall up to Enzo or Dewsbury Hall genuinely up to Ndai. Honestly, look at that, because even in the long term, it would be Leeds, Brighton, Fulham, Bournemouth, United in the next 5. So like they do have really solid fixtures, but I think even if like what you say and we're like, oh, Chelsea fucking suck, Enzo is cheap enough that I think even if you're like Chelsea aren't looking very good when they play West Ham, Wolves, Leeds, and Burnley, like you'd still probably want him just for coverage, if nothing else. So yeah, I would go one of those 2 guys for sure.
It's interesting that Garner has passed Enzo in total points from midfielders, isn't it?
Dude, that's what I'm saying. Enzo is like an absolute monster in underlyings, but this is why I didn't end up going with him last week. Not to say that I won't in the future, because I will almost positively have him in my team in the near future. But the reason I ended up going Wilson over him is because I was like, he's an XG merchant. Like that's his thing. Is he is Mr. I'm going to generate 2 XA and not return. Funny enough, of course.
I agree. Well, and then I pulled back up this map, and if you look at his last game, he's playing very in the central midfield. So one of the reasons I don't necessarily want to bring him in is just because I'm nervous about, is he gonna play enough? Now, obviously he gets an assist, so it completely invalidates this data. But like, if you just again look at the individual passing network, like he's making a lot of passes out to the side, kind of distributing it out to a winger. And I'm just not sure he's the Chelsea guy to go get in the midfield. Like maybe it's Garnacho, maybe it's Neto, maybe it's João Pedro. So
Yeah.
I'm gonna have to do a little bit of work on this. I probably just action items for me, make sure Bruno isn't rising tonight. And I don't want to do that for Rodgers because I don't have high degrees of confidence in Rodgers. I'll be honest. Like I know that he's scored a couple worldies, but I got punished for, who did I have? I think I transferred Rodgers in for somebody, and then I brought in Ekatika for Thiago. That was just a wrong move. Shouldn't have done that one. So I don't know if it's like bias or not, but like again, Rodgers almost scored a worldie last week, but at the same time, he's not very consistent. So
I think in the pro Enzo camp, the one thing I'll say is like, yes, we're looking at the passing maps. Yes, maybe it's not ideal, but there's not another attacker that you're going to pick over him. Almost certainly. Like it could be João Pedro. It really could. But outside of that, you're not really going to be looking for anyone else. And again, for his price with those fixtures, I really think it's a very safe transfer. And yeah, I wouldn't be like worried about like, oh, am I picking a player that's going to be bad? I think if his output is less than we hope it's going to be, sure. But I don't think he's going to be bad. And I certainly think he'll be, if anything, what you showed is that he's probably the most involved player in everything Chelsea does.
Which is
so
true.
If nothing else, that's the positive to take from it.
So, provided Bruno's not rising tonight, I think
That's
I'm
what
gonna
I was
try.
about to say. I mean, the prices have already happened for tonight, but he's still not projected for more than 2 more days. So
Yeah.
I don't think you couldn't just wait until after the Arsenal game.
And I don't feel strongly about bringing in Bruno ahead of the Arsenal game. And I think I want to get more data on Enzo in the Champions League game tomorrow, like just to get another map to look at. Like maybe, again, Pathos are not very good. They play in Cyprus. They are, second in the table. Good for them. We love seeing it, but it's not exactly the deepest league. I'm very curious to know how they set up against a team they should theoretically dominate, because if they absolutely go crazy tomorrow, then I have a lot more hope for how Chelsea is going to perform against some of these, like West Ham, Wolves, Leeds, Burnley. So don't have a lot of answers, have a lot of possibilities. I think the smartest thing for me to do, to be clear, would be to do nothing. Just roll the transfer. That way I'm set up better next week, either for a wild card or not for a wild card. Arguably, I shouldn't have brought in Van de Ven. I just thought that there was no way Spurs lost to West Ham and had 3 transfers next week, but here we are.
Is there a chance that we all roll?
I feel like after your conversation, I'm not rolling at all. I feel like I'm
all right, good.
Pretty sure now.
I had to make sure someone at least was spending the transfer.
No, I'm convincing myself every second that I'm going to go O'Reilly to Chalobah. I just hate it. Like, they're playing Wolves. I should roll. It's so dumb.
But, like, he could play 30 minutes.
Yep. And he honestly probably will.
Yeah,
at this point, that feels like the most likely outcome, actually. But it's weird. Like, yeah, neither here nor there. I don't really get Pep in general. I don't really understand what his thought process is there. But
well, if you did, you'd be a Premier League coach.
Right. Right. All right. I feel like that wraps us up pretty nicely. Anything else you guys want to touch on before we go?
Nope, not really.
All right. Yeah, fuck Pep Guardiola. We'll see you guys next time after game week 23.